All right, good morning, everyone. Good to have you here. Paul Trani diving into getting started in Photoshop. And quite frankly, thanks so much for joining me. All right, if you're on YouTube, hop over to behance.net/live. Fantastic. We'd love to see you here. And we're going to really get into Photoshop for graphic designers. So that's the plan. All those Photoshop tips and tricks you need to know if you're doing any sort of graphic design. So not necessarily for photographers, but we're going to be dealing with photos, but how to really master Photoshop CC like a professional graphic designer, because you are one. Andrew in the house, want to welcome you. Nuno, Jordan, Carlos, Damien as well. Thanks for hanging out with me as well. Keita Jones in the house. Let's do this. Sorry for my crazy hair. Oh, what's happening? Let's go ahead and dive into Photoshop. Big thanks to Jesus Ramirez, who was just up, kicking off the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. Just so you know the schedule, he'll be back tomorrow. Basically Tuesday through Thursday, we have some things going on. We basically have UX UI design in the morning, Tuesday through Thursday. A little daily creative challenge in the middle of the day. And then Christine Arth and myself will be up diving into Photoshop and various related tools. It's going to be awesome. So we have a good plan. It's going to be super fun. We're going to be in San Francisco. It's going to be fantastic. All right. It's like the Hawkeye hair. That is funny, by the way, Keita. No spoilers here. I did see it this weekend, and I can't wait to talk about it with people. I have a loose agenda. My notes go much deeper than this, but this is going to be using sort of more text and graphics together with photos. All right, so and that sort of, it says compositing photos with type. Of course, that's going to be something we're going to be doing and really mastering that, if that works for you. All right, so let's go ahead and start off simply, if we can. Thank you so much for joining me. Just getting everything squared away here. Yeah, Keita Jones, myself, and Christine. It's going to be out of control, but it's going to be like super fun. So these are the tips you need to learn about and understand and all those good things. You can see, obviously, I have my current project. Let's kind of nest my current graphic. I have some other things that I'm going to kind of jump into, by the way. A ton of great files, not only here, but also on my desktop. Like, I have a lot going on. So, too many things. But let's start out simply, shall we? All right. So, Claudio, good to have you here too, Claudio. Awesome. Fantastic. Again, kind of starting out simply, by the way. A lot of times, and this is just a basic thing that you should know, and I'll just check our image size. You know, it's about 6,000 by 4,000. This is a pretty random size. I didn't sweat it too much, by the way. So, obviously you want to go larger or smaller. A lot of times with your background layer, let me go ahead and uncheck that. And let's just say, for instance, I want to make this larger. And I'll make this larger, say, just by using, the crop tool, for instance. If I make it larger and my background is white, look, I'll have to go in and I have to fill that in. I have to fill in this white space, this transparent space, anytime I change the size. So what I like to do for my background layer, again, starting out simply, rather than having it like a pixel layer, what I do right down here, zoop, let's try to get this squared away. We'll just add a solid color. If I add a solid color in there and I make that black, or we'll just make it maybe a little bit of red, just to make it a little bit different. When we resize this or we change this any way we want, let's do canvas size, by the way. So canvas size, we make this wider, width 8,000 pixels, right? It's going to give you this mask. So I just delete that layer mask, and usually I just have a static color fill. So regardless of the size that I have this or change this to, it's always going to fill the area. As I go up to 9,000 and this up to 7,000. This gives me so much room to work with. We can see it expands. All right, so that's just a quick tip. Your first one, have a color fill layer. That's it. All right, Niagara Falls in the house. Carl Green, very cool, Carl. My friend Jesus Ramirez was just there. Claudia, I don't know if you were there as well. So anyways, that's the first thing I do. Let's kind of get started with this. I want to deal with type now, and we're just going to do like a simple, here we go. This book is called One, and it is written by one and only, hopefully it's okay if I use your name, Damien Summersall, right? So we're creating a book design, right? Typed in his name right here. We'll get into type. We'll mainly deal with, obviously, this text here, 1, okay? For any number, any input text field, as we could see right over here, you should know that you should be able to scrub on these icons next to any numerical field. Okay, so if I want to adjust the spacing or the size, I can just grab that and adjust it down as I click and drag, right? Making it smaller and making it larger. This thing is massive, by the way. I'm going to change the size. Let's take it down some. Okay, cool. There we go. Just making some book titles. This book is called One. It's by Damien Summersall. Again, I want to take this down. I just click and drag, drag, drag. I keep an eye on that particular number right over here. And now it's 403 point type. Let's not sweat that too much. But I could do this for anything. I could take that down to 0. You get the idea. Let's go a little further. 4-1. Oh, Claudia's in Europe, and she gets her top award 2019 in Berlin next week. Yeah, what does that mean? Tell me more about that. The top award for Berlin, in Berlin, your top award 2019, out of all the awards, you have the top award. That is fantastic. Let's dive into some further tips and tricks. By the way, what I typically use now is I use this properties panel. Properties panel gives you everything that, whatever you have selected, it's going to give you those properties for it, okay? So it'll obviously change based on what I have selected. If I drop in a photo, by the way, let's grab an image, bring this in. Oh, I must have some crazy resolution going on here. Making sure I was doing some printing. All right. Wait for it. Command T to scale things down. We're going to make this poster. I just need to integrate an image with it as well. Okay, just so we know what we're dealing with. Image size. Let's just crop it down to that size. There we go. Much better to deal with. Okay, so we have our image back there. It's going to make it more interesting. We have the text right here. As I select this image, of course, we get the properties, the pixel layer properties for it as well. If I start to bring in an image such as this begonia, right? Drop in an image. There it is. This is actually something that's imported from CC libraries. It gives me all those properties for that element right here. So if we go to edit content or embed, I have those properties in my properties panel. Let's go back. We have this beautiful text. Let's just change this a little bit, shall we? So it's easy to see. I don't like dealing with just a blank screen. I'm actually going to take this text right here. We can see we get the properties for it. We can go into advanced type, and that'll open up the character panel, right? Character panel has a couple of cool features that we want to be aware of. First off, let me just change the font altogether. We'll change it to Lust Script, which everybody knows that's my favorite font. Oh wait, Summer Summersol. Did I? Oh, Summersol. Sorry about that. Sol. There you go. I deeply apologize. I think that's pretty offensive. Again, what am I doing? You'll notice this in various apps. The properties panel becomes like a first-class citizen, right? And I get it. I have the same properties up here as I do over here. But this is the same for XD. This is the same for Illustrator as well. As I open up Illustrator, you'll see that that is also the deal. The properties panel is going to list out all the properties for whatever is selected. So we're kind of leaning that direction. So awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. So right in here in Illustrator, you have the same, roughly the properties for whatever selected. In this case, it's my artboard. Okay. So right over here, I'm going to change the color of it. Boom. There's our one text right in here. And then I can start to work with this and make it larger. Scaling it up. Let's swap out this N. By the way, you get all of the different glyphs associated with that particular font. So Josh, I don't know if you know this, just select that letter. If there are additional glyphs like there are for this wonderful N, I can go ahead and add it right there. Like that curl underneath, just like that. Or extending down like this, keeping it simple. I'll kind of go with this one that's a little bit more fun to look at. Let's play with both of these. Something like that. There we go. So far, so good. I'm going to show you something that you may or may not be aware of, Stephen. So let's just have a case where where I accidentally flattened this file. Okay, so this is our file that gets flattened. Okay, we're dealing with fonts. I'm like, okay, you have to then maybe you get sent this file by someone else. Right here it is. It's just a flattened JPEG. Maybe this is part of a larger campaign. And you have to make more assets. Maybe this was, again, done by somebody else, anyone else, and you have no idea what font it is. Like, what font is that? Do I just have to figure this out? We actually do have the ability, right under type, go down to match font. So if you're dealing with a flattened file, or even if you take a photo of something out in the real world, you can dive into match font. Right here, we'll select both. I'm actually just going to confine it to this one right here. And sure enough, remember this is a flattened layer. It will actually find those fonts, at least the closest fonts to the one that you have selected. And you can see it's Lust script display, I think is what I used. And it does that accordingly. What about right down here for Damien? I'll crop that right in and say, hey, you know what, just focus on this text down here. And you can see that it's actually Trajan Pro Bold. It lists all my fonts available on my desktop and then gives me fonts available on Typekit that are similar. Okay. So again, pretty impressive. This was a couple years ago that we released this, and yeah. So and then we didn't talk. I feel like I didn't talk about it for till now. It's not until now. Oh, let's fix my hair. Gotta warn me, it's looking horrible. Okay. Just like that, we could identify the fonts for anything. We could see we have Trajan Pro Bold, and then we also have Lust script. Okay, let's go back to our original. So far, so good with this. It's not bad. I want to work on selections now. And maybe even before I do that, I can talk about layer blend modes. We know the layer blend modes, rather than me picking multiply and then, like, what was that other one? Was it overlay? Let's select it. No, it wasn't that one. Is it hard mix? No, that wasn't it. They're actually applied on rollover. So this is brand new. Brian, this is for you, and Josh. As I roll over, I actually see those layer blend modes being applied. So it's much easier to work with rather than sort of understanding or trying to figure out the correct one. So we'll go with color dodge. That looks pretty cool. I can see that might look pretty good with my type. And again, just kind of adjust this accordingly. That looks very good too. Okay, so looking at this, yes, and by the way, if you're looking to discover the font, it's under type match font. Okay. Another thing with fonts, by the way, because that's where a lot of this is going to end up, is dealing with fonts, but also finding new fonts. So right in here, I can see that I've actually favorited LustScript and some of these ones that I just like a lot, right? We see them right here. If I decide I want to pair this very decorative font with a font that is much more simple, because I would say even this Trajan Pro is a little complex, I could change that as well. Let's make this larger. I want to pair this really decorative font with something that's just much more simple. In fact, I want to pair it with a sans serif. Selecting sans serif, it serves up all my sans serifs on my desktop, and then I can start rolling through those to figure out which one might be a good combo, right? See right in, I can select this Acumen. Seems pretty innocent, right? Acumen, it's a variable concept font. Now we get even more detailed into the type, because this variable concept font, and there's not a lot of them, but check this out. Look at how many different versions of this font there are. That's why there's not many variable concept fonts. But what I can do is, for this text right over here, for Damien's new book, I can come to the properties panel off to the side, and I can start to adjust, say for instance, the weight. And in this case, I want to make the weight pretty light and make it pretty wide so it stands out. But you control the width, the weight, and even the slant with this particular font as I start to pick something that looks nice with the font above, which is another whole deal. All right, there we go. Keeping it simple, scrubbing on those numbers, shrinking it down. And we'll continue to work on this, okay? Yes, by the way, Damien, thank you so much. When it comes to Illustrator, and I can't ignore Illustrator, by the way, because you're probably going to be using a combination of the two. But one, here's your text. I want to change this text to something else in Illustrator just to show you the difference between Illustrator and Photoshop. And what's coming to Photoshop, by the way, is, check this out right over here. We'll go in here, boop. We can sort through classifications and different things, as you can see, rolling over them. But you also have the ability to download fonts find more. I'm going to go right over here to find more fonts. These happen to be, in fact, we'll go right over here to this one. We'll do a script font, because currently we're using LustScript Pro. What if I want a different one? And again, I'm in Illustrator now. I can see all these fonts that aren't even on my desktop yet. This is amazing, and this is extra. This is the sort of extra content that you're getting, because again, I'm in Illustrator. It's actually showing me that font that isn't even installed on my computer yet, and I can see which one might work for my project. And this is, okay, so this one's pretty good. Boucherie cursive. This is usually what I do, is I'll usually favorite it, but I can activate it right from within Illustrator, and it's being synced, okay? And just so you know, I know we're talking about Photoshop today, but usually what happens is we have a feature will appear in Illustrator or After Effects or something, and then the other apps will pick it up based on its like popularity, that sort of thing. So I'm not saying any inside info, but I'm really looking forward to something like this to be in Photoshop. But Boucherie has been synced, and again, I can go to my fonts, I can go to my favorite fonts, clear this out, so clear all, and we should see Boucherie come through. There's some great fonts in here, by the way. Look at this. Look at these multicolor fonts. We don't have time to talk about that, but it's certainly really cool. All right, I could look at the activated fonts too, the recently active fonts too. Here's my Bochery cursive like that. There it is. Right, cool. Cool. So we could work with Illustrator, we could work with Photoshop, we could work with multicolor fonts. You could work with multicolor fonts in Photoshop too. Check this out. Let's actually do that. Why not? Some of these I made and they're... Okay, here we go. This is the one I want. Popski. Popski font. Boom. There it is. Guess what? Let's look at Popski in here. Just checking out. One. Duplicating that layer. Clearing. All classes. There's Popski. Color. Regular. This is a multicolor font in Photoshop now. Multicolor font. And notice how it actually opens up all the glyphs. You could see it right here. We don't have time to get into this, Anita and Steven and stuff, but you could actually make your own multicolor fonts. Typically, you'll use something called Font Self Maker in Illustrator, right? Font Self Maker is for Photoshop as well. So that's another pro tip that I should get installed on this latest version. But you can actually make multicolor fonts using Font Self Maker, okay? Once they're made, in fact, you'll see them right over here. Here's some fonts that I've made. Once they're made, you can go ahead and use them accordingly. It's cool. Easy enough. You get the idea. All right. Let's kind of go to fonts. So here's a number of fonts that I've actually have worked on, which are actually super easy. So again, you can see just this is one of the letters. So cool. All right, let's move on. Multicolor fonts. We've been able to pull in fancy fonts, use different glyphs as well. As I select this N right in here, I can look at those glyphs here in my glyphs panel, right over here, and that sort of thing, right? So that's looking pretty good. Let's move on from here. We have fonts that are paired. I want to kind of integrate this photo. Let me know if you have questions. Yes, Damien, you can have multicolor fonts. It's so awesome. It is insane. I'm going to do something else now. As I look at this, so many things I want to do. Right? I want to talk about integration with Illustrator. I want to talk about vector assets in here because this is resolution independent. This text is, right? If I decide I want to use some shapes in here, I obviously have access to these different shapes in the options bar, in the toolbar off to the side. I'm going to encourage you to go to the, if you can see that behind my head, the custom shape tool, okay? Custom shape tool, selecting that right up here in your top bar. This is your options bar, twirling that down. You can see the shapes. And I actually use this quite a bit. Anytime I need something basic, any of these icons that I use a lot, right? Think squares, circles, just like a registered mark, a trademark, all that stuff is actually, you can get loaded in here. So you go right over here, and this is what you want to have access to, all of this. So that's what you do. You say all. Replace current shapes with the shapes from all. So that's what we'll do. We'll just replace them, right? And these are all the various shapes available right in here. From a number of these libraries. Okay, so you can see right in here, nature, you have the nature images right in here. So yes, I encourage you to use those. Take those. Let's take that. Let's take a shape, shall we? Let's zoom out. And holding down the shift key, maybe the option key to keep it in the center. And again, there's our shape as we see as I start to work on this some more, okay? Not bad. In fact, let's grab a different shape because I'm not really happy with that one. We're gonna grab the heart right in here. We'll grab that heart. We're gonna put it right over the top like that. Since it's a shape, I could always change the color. It's going to be vector. You could see it over here. I really wish I knew, I really wish it said heart, though, by the way, because these technically have names right in here. So if we actually view by text only, they actually do have names. So I don't know why when I drag it in, it doesn't have the name of the shape, which I wish it did. Okay, so there's that. That's done. Let's move on from there really fast. Where is it? Let's do Creative Cloud. Oh no, I do not have anything. Let's grab any shape from miscellaneous. So many brushes and patterns and vector graphics. But if I end up making a vector graphic, by the way, let me open this. Wait for it. So this here I have a vector graphic. I'm going to copy it. Let's see how complex this is. I could paste it in as a shape layer. There it is. Okay, here's our camera. Typically what I would say this is what I used to do. I used to take this shape and I used to save it as a shape. So I used to come in here and I would define custom shape. Okay, so you could put a bunch of shapes inside of the custom shape tool. So define custom shape, there it is. Zoop, camera, boom, there it is. And right in here, we have that camera now exists in our library, in our custom shapes. But from there, I actually end up using CC libraries. This has everything I need. So you're not really using these shapes as much anymore, thanks to CC libraries. All right. Fantastic. All right, so let's move on from there. I got a couple shapes in there. I got some fun things happening. Let's do something else with this particular image in the background, okay? In fact, let's kind of switch it up just to show a different image, right? When it comes to selecting, you ready for this? CC libraries do rock. By the way, the best thing about CC libraries now, by the way, and I do kind of want to finish this point. CC libraries right over here. Yeah, I get it. I have a miscellaneous. There's a debate on whether you should have anything that's miscellaneous. But if I come in here and I create a new library and I'm going to call this book covers, right? There it is. And I can start dropping in assets in there, right? Dropping in assets, dropping in assets, dropping them in, dropping in some text, just different items really fast. Oh, I didn't even have some of those turned on. So let's delete them. Because they have to, it helps to have them turned on, but I'm going to drop them in there. Here's some text, right? Here's that heart shape. Here's that triangle, the begonia, all sorts of things. That background image. And by the way, let's select this text. This text right over here, I'm going to make sure it doesn't, when I bring that text in, it doesn't come in as an image. I could say, hey, bring in the character style. Okay, so turning this off, we'll go to this original one right here, this text. I can add this as a character style. That's now a character style that gets added. And I'm adding a second character style to that name. If it lets me. And you could just bring that in. Or you could even bring in the colors, as you can see. This is the fun thing I wanted to show you. Check this out. This is huge. I ended up with so many assets in here, and it just got to be a mess. I can say, hey, you know what? Create a group or auto-generate groups for me. So let's do that. Auto-generate. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Photoshop. CC libraries. Dropping in that color, puts everything in colors, typography, images, and it should actually do vector and raster images too, I could have swore. But I could also add my own groups that say photos. and I can drop that image in there and bring that up and put that in there. So you can see what I've done for, say, my 36 days of type. Here's all the painted images, and here's some 3D ones. And this is how I organize things. I have everything painted right in here to be used at any point in time. Okay. All right. Let's move on. Let's move on to integrating this content and selecting content as well. I'll jump over to this moose. I want to select this text. Maybe I want to put some text behind it. So the text I want to put behind this, just to mix up the subject matter a little bit, is going to be Big Sky Country. It's like Montana, okay? That's what we're working with here. There we go. Command T, stretch it out, something like that. I want to put this text behind these horns or something, right? So what do? Go in here. I could use the selection tools. I'll typically use the quick selection tool. I think where a lot of you might know where this is going. This quick selection still takes a lot of time, right? Let's actually deselect that. What I can actually do in selecting this subject is, of course, select subject, okay? If I have a selection tool selected, right up here, select subject appears, or we could go through this menu, right? And I like looking at this menu because these are the different ways I used to select them. I used to do color range, focus area, or subject. In fact, let's try both of these. Let's try focus area. You ready for this? Boop. Look what it does. It does it based on the focus, the in focus range. And you can see it actually selects that moose minus a couple little areas, right? So I can use something like, I like focus area because you can actually get the in focus range. You can grab more as I take this more to the right or less like that. And it'll start grabbing more or less. Okay, so this is a good way to go. The other way is, of course, select subject. Okay, there it is. This is the new fancy magic. No hands. Oh, Steven, I'm glad you like this. Thanks, Steven. You were too kind. Boom, it grabs it, right? It actually selects that image. You can see it all here, right? Selects it, right? But I think in this case, just depending on your needs, you could determine what you grab. So whether you're going to grab use select subject like I'm doing now, boop, or if you want to use select focus area. In this case, by the way, the in focus range, this actually does a little bit better job because it actually doesn't select any of the mountains or any of that stuff down here. And I love that I can actually literally jump right into, actually let's turn on soften edge. Soften that edge. Right, I can subtract right in here. Oops, too much. Make that brush a little smaller. Let's click right in here. I'm just clicking and I'm removing. It's like, no, I don't need that little area. I don't need this little area. See, you did that here. Let's get rid of that. Zoom in a little closer. Make that brush smaller. Ugh, it's too good. It's too good. Let's dive into select and mask. Okay. So now I can actually kind of go into select and mask. I actually think that if I look at this, yeah. So look what's happening. Kind of showing the onion skinning, but it's actually missing this whole horn right over here. So I could use a brush, for instance, to select more of that. Oops. Too big. Let's go into something that I can see a little better. I'm going to turn off remember settings, by the way. Typically don't like that. But I'm just going to go through this onion skinning. So this is what I'm going to do. I can actually see that transparency. I can adjust so you can see what it's actually grabbing and what it isn't grabbing, and then start to go through. And here's a new tip. Oh, by the way, Massimiliano is joking about how you can just say, you could just say select animal and Photoshop will select that animal. Like, you are not far from the truth. Like, you don't know how close we are to doing that stuff. Like, literally saying select cat and it will locate the cat and pull it in. It's amazing. All right, so by the way, here's one thing I learned from Jesus, so I encourage you to check out his amazing getting started, by the way. If I can just click to the schedule, because he's going to be live tomorrow at 11:30, just so you know, 11:30 to 12. But he actually showed me this. This was a huge issue, because sometimes when you're going to use a brush, you might not see the brush. Like, I don't see the brush size. It's because you have the caps lock key on. So I'm going to turn off caps lock. Oh, there's the size of my brush. So caps lock on, it's hidden. Caps lock off, I can actually see it. Okay, and then I can start, painting accordingly, grabbing what I want. Using the brackets key. Close key makes it smaller, open key makes it larger, and that's typically what you do. What if you hold down the shift key? What's going to happen? If I do shift, open bracket, close bracket, the bracket keys, it will adjust the feather. There's other ways I could have done this as well, but I'm just kind of showing you the selected mask portion. I'm going to actually jump in. I'm going to show you one more thing right in here. Super cool. Right down here. That's not even the part I wanted to work on. Look at this. Look at this. I never knew that Mises had, they have sweet goatees. They got these sweet like beards. So I would want to use right up here, refine selection, refine edge. Okay, expanding that out, and I'll just click and drag and I'll start to paint right over here. In fact, I'm going to hold the shift key down and it's going to grab more, because I noticed it's actually grabbing more. I need to grab more hair than is needed. But typically it'll go through and try to capture that feather right in there. That's what's happening. All right, might be kind of hard to see. Nonetheless, let's move on. Shall we? Shall we move on, folks? All right. A flying moosies. Meesies. Yes. All right, Steven Fads. First time using Behance. So welcome to Behance. My name is Paul Trani. I am showing you Photoshop tips and tricks for graphic designers, because what do you need to do? You need to cut out an image to integrate type with it, right? With that done, again, I can feather the edge, I can smooth the edge, you could do a smart radius, which is always recommended because, hey, if it says smart, you should do it. Click OK. It generates this new layer, and let's just delete these others. That's just those other examples that I was working on. Let's get rid of those. So there's the background, and here's like the foreground. Now I can take this text, for instance, this text that I was working on, Big Sky Country, Montana. Oh, you get the idea. All right, let's do Montana up top because I want to show you something. There we are. Boop. Done. Done. Acumen Pro Extra Condensed? I don't think so. We want to take this to the next level. Wait for it. I want to make sure Acumen Variable Concept. Again, this is actually the font I want because I wanted the weight a little bit thicker and I wanted the width really big, right? Like that. And now what we can do is we could put that between those two layers, right? We could do more than that, is we could take that text. You know what we're doing. Damien, you're hilarious. Okay, so I want to arch this text, Montana, right up here. Of course, we have different text controls. So create warp text is what we want to do, and we'll arc it like that. How come I'm not, oh, there we go. Don't know why I wasn't seeing it initially. But now we can arc that text like so. You get the idea. This is not new. This is really just like the fundamentals. Doing something kind of like that, right? You get the idea. Cool. All right. How we doing on time? All right. I have about 20 minutes. I would say this piece is looking pretty good. We know everything isn't this cut and dry or that easy, right? It's typically not. It gets a little bit more complex, even if we go over here to this one. If we wanted to do some selections, in this case, I'll just change this to normal. What if I wanted to put this hand in front of the text here, right? I want to put this hand in front of it. It's going to be that process of going through. Select subject isn't going to work. Focus area select isn't going to work. Chances are I'm probably going to use either the quick selection tool, depending on the defined edges, whether they're defined or not, or I would use the pen tool. It's really up to you, right? Changing this just like that. Worrying only about that hand. What do we want to do? Right there. You guessed it. As I scroll down here, make a layer mask. Boop. Clicking right there. It creates that layer mask, as you can see. All right. I'm just working away. Making layer sandwiches for lunch. There we are. Like that. Okay. Notice how it's not that clean. This is sometimes what happens, especially if you're using like quick selection tool or anything that's automatic. Might not get it as clean as you want it to. Of course, we can go in there with different brushes, and that's what I'm doing right now. Scrolling up. Hard round brush. Black removes, as we see. In fact, one thing I don't normally do, I'll hit B for brush. If I click and hold down the Shift key, it'll give me a line. Because in this case, I probably want this to be a little more straight. So let's just go in here. Let's use our lasso tool. Let's fill with white, something like that. Let's move this over a touch. Let's go back to the brush. It's just cleanup. I'm just doing cleanup. All right. Okay, that seems to work for me. You don't need to see me go through all of this. Cardi B, what are you talking about? Right, there we have it. Cool. One by Damien Summersall. You know he wrote a book? He did. There it is. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change the blend modes. Let's dive into this some more. Okay, so looking at this, check this out. I absolutely love this, Josh. Okay, so check this out. I'm gonna get kind of tricky here. Okay, and I'll kind of explain. I will explain why. But basically, I want to have a layer group that has this mask on it. That's what I want to do. I'll typically hold down the Command key, click to get that selection. Actually, you know what? I think I can do this. I can hold down Option key and drag it to, boom, something I never do usually. I'm going to hold down the Option key and I want to take this layer mask and I want to apply it to this group. Holding down that Option key, drag it over, boop, there it is. So now, I don't even need that. I'm using this new layer group. Why am I using that layer group? Because I want to be able to mask out. Let's invert it, by the way. I want to be able to mask out anything inside of this folder. So this one is outside, now it's inside, right? I take this heart that's right here, it's on the outside, now it's on the inside. And you can see this sort of flexibility that we're given thanks to adding layer masks to groups. Yeah, I guess I make sounds. Thank you, Kita's is pointing out how I make noises when I work. It's all sound effects, really, just some little sound effects. That is hilarious. Let's make this a little larger. Still needs some work. We'll go back in here to the blend modes. And again, we can do something like that. You get the idea. Okay, let's talk about quick tips, things that you're gonna want to do just to speed up your process. Because I only have 10 minutes, so I want to speed this up, right? I might want to look at other images. I might load up a bunch of images because I happen to have a lot out here. You know, there's all sorts of various crazy images that I'm working with. A lot of times I'll still use Bridge, and the reason I'll use Bridge is because I want to be able to see. This is what I use Bridge for. Show items from subfolders. Do you know this? These are tips, folks. I love this. Show items from subfolders, and there's like so many subfolders in here. There's too many. There's so many. And then I'm going to filter that out. Because basically, if you're looking for a Photoshop file, you don't know where you put it, you just know the general area. You can view all items from subfolders, and then once it reads this, I can just sort to just show right over here as I scroll down. Photoshop document. Just show the Photoshop document. Ah, that bear, that's what I was looking for, right? Here's this alligator that I was looking for as well. I can then find what I need and open it up in Photoshop, okay? Ooh, if there's one thing you've mastered, it's layered grouping and artboard sorting. Good job, man, that's the way to be. Into it. Grizzly bear, same thing. I can do a focus area select right here to select that guy. Super easy, you get the idea. He's scary looking. But let's move on from that. Once I've opened up a bunch of images, I want to view them all. You can go to Window and go to Arrange, and then you can do a tile. I'm just pointing out the shortcuts. You should know the basic shortcuts, but then start building in your own. So I do this. I basically say hold down Control, Option, and Command. So I say, for all my shortcuts, hold down all the keys and then the first letter of that word if it's available, right? Something like that. So again, here I do, let's get rid of this. Tile everything, boom, here everything is tiled. I can go back to my original image and bring that to the front. So it allows me to toggle quickly and is something that I use a lot. Okay, so I'll go right over here, then I'm able to grab this grizzly bear, maybe load it into this image or into this final one. All right, so that's typically what I'll do. If you don't know where an image is, because I'm like, okay, well, this alligator image, super cool. Well, where does it come from? Check this out. Right click. Oh, reveal in Finder. If you right click on the title, you can locate it on your desktop, because remember, I have no idea where it came from. Turns out it came from this compositing folder. Okay. Oh, this is some of the content I was looking for earlier. So this is the stuff that I wanted to show too. That's for another day. For another day. All right. Yeah, Bridge does make things, it's easy to get a nice view, but that's what Bridge does. I think it gives you a nice view of all your assets. So at Creative Jams, when I want to show all the artwork, this is a nice desktop sort of gallery view, just so you know. And I don't have to worry about loading up all of these files into Lightroom or something, because Lightroom would be your other option. Okay. All sorts of images, so much stuff. But I'm kind of winding down too. We can see locating this project. This is typically the project that I'd use if we're dealing with like puppet warp. That's something I'll work with a lot, especially when you get into compositing, is puppet warp. And I'd say that looks pretty good. This is the one we're working on. There's our bear. And oh, look at this. Here's why I took it to the next level, right? Cut out this moose. Said, hey, what would be really cool is if I filled that moose with some wildlife. So this is actually, sorry for the audio, but you can see that's live footage in Photoshop. Just a clip of some birds inside of that, just making this wilderness poster come to life, right? So again, I thought that was pretty cool. Maybe for graphic design, but kind of going beyond it, as you can see. And let's close down these other final files. You can see this final version where I just did some last little tweaks by doing color lookup. And a lot of times you'll want to unify this color. Actually, this color is not bad, but I'd encourage you to use, of course, all these different adjustment layers that we have. Sorry this is so small. Let's pull this out. Right in here, we have these various adjustment layers that we can add. I'm going to go into gradient map. I'm also going to look at color lookup, but let's add a gradient map to add just sort of two tones. In this case, we want to go from black to maybe a red. So that's what it's going to do. Just use those two colors, replace the black with actually black, but as it gets lighter, starts tinting it more and more red. But typically I'll go through here and I'll click on all these different ones to see if I find something interesting that might work for my project. And even this looks pretty good, I must say, right? Looks pretty good. Big sky country. It actually kind of has that sky look, and that's what we're going for this like graphic design piece, as you can tell. Next thing is also the color lookups, which I use a lot. Not channel mixer. Oops. Let's do this really fast, because I feel like I show this all the time. But I love this two-strip look, typically. Make the reds like a pinkish, and make the blues a teal. But you get what happens. And I can even go into fall colors if I want to. You get the idea. Cool. Done and done. We have that set up. That's looking good. We can see our original poster. We didn't really kill ourselves. There's probably more I'd want to do in here. Is I'd duplicate this layer. I would change this to normal. I would add a layer mask, by the way. Check this out. If I hold the Option key and I click to add a layer mask, it's going to add a layer mask that's all black, because that's what I want to do. Hold down that Option key, and then I'll hit B for brush, and I'll start painting. I'll hit X, shortcut keys again, hit X to change that so white's in the front, and then I'll just start painting right up here. And I'm going to take the flow down to about, 20%, sure. But here's a case where I'm using that wrong brush. Option key. You ready for this? I use basically brackets makes it smaller. If I hold down, the shift key, it makes it harder or softer. So I want a nice soft brush, and then I can paint on, take the opacity down, sort of paint on her face like that. Paint in this lighter color just to make this pop for this particular cover like that. Okay. Again, just giving in this nice warm hue actually does a lot for this particular design, okay, that we just knocked out pretty fast for a book cover. Hey, why not? because I'm using Photoshop from the point of a graphic designer, which is using the text tool. It's going to be using graphics like I showed you earlier, using CC libraries like I mentioned as well. You can see it right over here. And then combining those with photos, as you can tell. Hit FF. There we go. Full screen. Yeah, it's a good start for a book that we just made up. Thank you, Andrew Kavanaugh. Black conceals, white reveals. Yeah, that's good. I should be using that more. Build in your own shortcuts too. I can't stress that enough. And really just like create. I hope this was inspiring for you. We just knocked this out. It was pretty simple. But this is the fundamental sort of mixing graphics and imagery together, you know, with photographs. You get the idea. Okay. Now Damien needs to get working on his book. Damien, get working on this book because we have a cover for it already. Oh, by the way, Damien, I would say one more thing, and I'm kind of out of time, but the one thing I did not cover that I'd say is essential is using clipping masks. Okay? For those that are interested, clipping masks are amazing. So clipping masks is the only thing that I'd say cover. But nonetheless, I covered a lot. Not to worry, I will be back tomorrow. In fact, here's our schedule. Irsi Toll, she'll be up, basically UX UI in the morning, tomorrow morning, and then we have PS Daily Creative Challenge, basically day one for Jesus. And then Christine and myself will be designing and hosting, kind of tag teaming a project we have that we're working on. So that's it. That's what I have for you. Clipping Mask, fantastic. I think Steven is fantastic, right? And Damien and Kita. It's always so sweet to me. Thank you for being so nice. Andrew, you're a true professional. I always appreciate you and everybody hanging out with me today. So catch up with you tomorrow. Go have a beautiful day. Just go give somebody a hug. Tell them they look good. Just spread some positivity out there. And go see Avengers Endgame if you haven't already, because it's probably the most fun I've had at a movie theater in ages. So that's all I got for you. This is Pacific time too. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Dune, Kita, and Stephen, and everyone, and Jason, and Jordan. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a beautiful day. We'll talk.